Hi, it's Karen Rogers. Welcome back. This is video number 37. Today, this video was inspired by my friend Sebastian. Sebastian is in 7th grade and he is studying life science, and in that class they are talking about the reproduction of plants and animals. But specifically today in this video I will talk about the reproduction of plants. Let's begin with plants. They're the major organs of plants. Here's a picture, and this video could be a little bit longer. You might need a cup of coffee for this one, but let's take a look at the basic organs of plants. There's 3 basic organs, and those are the roots, the stems, and the leaves. Of course, the roots, they anchor the plant, they absorb all the nutrients and the water from the soil, and they store the food. So that's what the roots do. The next organ is the stem. That is like the vascular system of the plant. That would be like our arteries and veins. It gets the water going up the plant, and the food and the energy goes down and throughout the plant. I have another picture here. This one just shows, if you want to know some biology words, the xylem, X-Y-L-E-M, xylem, it is the one that carries the water up the plant. So I always think W-X-Y, water goes up. And then the phloem, P-H-L-O-E-M, phloem, takes the food down. All right, that's a little bit of biology vascular system for you, but that's not really what's important today. The important thing, and we will talk about it soon, are the reproductive structures. But there's one more organ, and that's the leaves. The leaves are the food producers. They do photosynthesis. Plants are like magicians. They can take energy from light and turn it into chemical energy, which is food. And that food is carbs, starch, glucose. They're all the same thing, and you can call it whatever you want. But it's an energy conversion from light to food. Plants are important. Without plants, we wouldn't survive. We ate a plant. Think about your last meal. You ate it, came from a plant. You can read the ingredients. If it was a packaged food, it started with a plant, or it was an animal that ate a plant, or ate an animal that ate a plant. It all starts with plants. All right, so you know your basic plant organs. You understand the importance of plants. Now let's talk about the reproductive structures. Let me begin by talking about spores. The simple plants, like a fern, they'll produce spores, and they aren't considered to be as advanced. There's usually the male spores or the female spores, and when we talk about male and female parts of a plant, this is what I want you to know. The male parts are called male because they produce the pollen. The female parts are called female because that's where the seeds develop. Okay? Now, after spores, we're going to go up and we're going to talk about gymnosperms. There's 2 major groups of vascular plants, the gymnosperms and the angiosperms. The gymnosperms are pine cones. That's a good example of gymnosperms. Of course, there's more than pine cones. And something that you might not know is that there's a lot of times 2 different types of pine cones. So when you see these furry-looking ones, those are the males. They produce the pollen. And the object is to get the pollen to the female cone. The female cone is the one that produces the seeds. I just happen to have a pine cone right here. And each one of these are ovules or seeds. And each one of these little pieces can break off and form a new pine tree if the growing conditions are right. All right, let's talk about the next big group, and those are the angiosperms. In terms of biology, they are the most advanced. in terms of complex flowers. All right, here's a diagram of a flower, and the flower has the male parts, and that's the stamen, and that's right here. And the stamen has this piece, which is the anther, and the anther produces the pollen. And of course, if you're allergic to pollen, it's everywhere, particularly in the spring, right? Because the wind carries it. But the anther produces the pollen, and it's on this thing called a filament. So if you get a question on biology, the male part is the stamen, and I like that because it says men in it. And the stamen consists of the anther and the filament. All right, that's the male part of the plant. And this in the center is the female part of the plant. It is called the pistil, or it's called a carpel. I'll call it the pistil. But the pistil has a top part right here, which is called the stigma, and it's sticky, so that's easy to remember, stigma, sticky. And the pollen needs to get to the stigma, and then it forms a tube, and it goes to this part, which is the ovary. And the ovary contains the ovules, which are the egg cells. And those cells will become new seeds. You get it? It's a little bit like animals in a way. The pollen, the sperm cell, needs to come here and fertilize the egg cell. And once that happens, they grow in and develop into seeds. Now, to protect the seeds is the fruit or the ovary. So think of it this way. The ovule is like a seed. The ovary is the fruit. The best example is an apple that I can think of, or a tomato. First there's the flower, and inside of it are the seeds. And once pollination occurs, the flower drops off and is no longer needed, because that's the only reason that you have a flower. The flower is there to attract pollinators. Pollinators can be birds, bees, bats, butterflies, any little insect. And what flowers do is they advertise. They look good, they smell good, they give nectar, which animals love that sweet nectar, particularly the bees. And I do have a good video on honeybees that I might recommend. They're very important in pollination. Some flowers smell like rotting meat to attract flies. Some have like a tube shape to attract a hummingbird or a butterfly. The butterflies have the longer tongues. We could talk about how flowers have adapted to attract pollinators for a long time. Grasses, I'm going to just talk briefly about grasses. Here's a couple of grasses that I have. If you don't mow your lawn, eventually it too will develop sort of a flowery head. But why doesn't it have these attractive big flowers like this one? Well, the wind is enough for the grasses. And you'll notice there's all these seeds. And if you watch a grass plant develop, you'll see that there's a bunch of seeds if you've ever planted grass seed. All right, so that's how crops and grains work. All right, when it comes to holiday decorations, you're going to see a lot of pine cones, a lot of fruits, berries, leaves, boughs of holly, mistletoe. You know, as a matter of fact, we even bring in and decorate an entire tree. So hopefully, as you are celebrating the holidays, you'll look around and you'll think of this video, and maybe you'll think about things that you've learned and notice that as you're noticing your decorations or even what you're eating at your holiday table. Plants are important, and I will go ahead and finish up today's video with a joke. Okay, the first joke is, why did the pine tree get in trouble? Because it was naughty. Naughty. And the next joke is, what did the old flower call the young flower? bud. I'll be here all night, folks. I'll be here all week. I'm Karen Rogers. I educate, motivate, and entertain. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.